Hey, Pam. Hey, Pam.
Yay. Jordan, I am so glad that you joined us on your phone. Do you have to rush off today?
No, today is my birthday, so I actually have a pretty open day today.
Are you kidding? We had
Mm,
ice last week and I knew that people were losing power, they were losing connections, and so I canceled Jordan rudely. Canceled Jordan last week thinking if we start it or we can't start it or we get partway through and everything dies, I just didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to cut any guests short. So the other guests have decided to come in on some other different Wednesdays. And Jordan, it says it right there next to your name, Art Against Ageism. And I have learned from some ageism experts, people who are part of the Change the Narrative, that
Yeah,
it's about expectations. It's not about being against aging or even pretending that nobody has any age, everybody's the same. We don't see, it is about expectations, changing that. When I get old, I'll always do this, I'll never get that. Or old people, they all fit in one spot. And just saying I'm going to stop and just take every individual as an individual, and also recognize when I'm perpetuating um, a mindset that debilitates someone else before they even enter the room, or can be known as an individual. So Gary and William and Jordan, do you know the first thing that I recognized is that it's kind of like your first names and your last names in every situation could kind of reverse and be first names and last names. So that has zero to do with anything. But Jordan, would you please tell? I'm thinking that Jordan, you haven't met William or Gary before this moment. Is that right?
no, I haven't. So nice
That's
to meet
right.
you.
Nice, nice to meet you, Jordan.
Yay. And tell me more because I know of you, but I don't know about you and why art. 'Cause there's got to be a reason.
Yeah, so there is a perfect reason why art. But to go back, I'm Jordan, so I am the co-founder of Art Against Ageism. My co-founder Meg Laporte and I founded Art Against Ageism in 2021, soon after the pandemic, and we founded it because we realized that in going through COVID, both of us working in aging services and specifically in senior living, we realized that there's a need for particularly addressing ageism in aging services and in our culture. I mean, we had like socially we were referring to COVID as hashtag boomer remover. We had inequities in allocation of resources to senior living communities and aging services institutions as opposed to other healthcare institutions. It was just, we had systematic ageism, and it was there for everyone to see. And so we founded Art Against Ageism to really bring about a culture change in our society around aging and tackle stereotypes around ageism. And so, particularly art, is because art is the most effective way of changing perceptions about any ism and tackling any ism. And it is, we use artistic activism particularly. And artistic activism is nothing new. Actually, every civil rights movement that has ever been has
Mm.
always used art in a purposeful way to affectively change minds. And we always talk about in social change groups and activist groups, like what made you step off the curb and join the march, what made you join this fight whatever you're fighting. And every time, no one changes their mind when someone asks them to sign a petition or when someone hands them this booklet with facts. If people's minds aren't changed by facts, people's hearts are changed, and then that changes their mind. And once your heart is changed, then you start looking for resources and you start learning more. So that is why art is the best way to change minds.
Sounds like art speaks to the heart.
Yeah,
And then, oh boy, I love quoting names, but I'll just say a smart person said to another smart person, it's a catchy phrase, but you might want to rethink it. You talk about the silver tsunami. Silver tsunami. You might want to rethink it. And that person was admitting, I did. Tsunamis are bad. They're fearful. It's going to overwhelm me. Oh, look at all these people, as if it was an entity that was coming to envelop you and take over. Look at all these old people that are going to continue getting old because we have our medical procedures are getting better, or, we're being more careful as we continue to live. And so, and I just think how visual many people are and how they can see something, it speaks to them. And the, the one term would be a picture paints whatever 1,000 words, but you're saying that a person can go, I feel different about that. I have always purchased, hey friend, your birthday is 1 month before me, and this is true. We've been friends since college, and we've sent back and forth the joke aging birthday cards.
Yeah.
I have a different
Ageist
mindset
birthday
now.
cards.
I feel like I'm slapping the face of anybody who's staying healthy, or anyone who cares about somebody who has more wrinkles than they used to.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because we at Art Against Ageism have moved more away from tackling ageism and more towards promoting age positivity. And the reason is there's a researcher named Becca Levy who has put out a book that tackles ageism, and it is Breaking the Age Code. Just trying to make sure that that's the right thing. Yes, Breaking the Age Code by Becca Levy. It's recent research, and she dove into age beliefs. And in her research, she found that you can change your age, you can change your lifespan by 7.5 years by just holding more positive age beliefs. And when you are primed socially and you have these priming phrases, priming pictures, when you absorb media and your surrounding is with age negative beliefs, that can take off 7.5 years from your life just by being more negative or seeing negative portrayals of older people or of just an aging in general can negatively affect your life. And the easiest thing you can do is just be more positive about your own aging and just look in the mirror and say, you look your age and you look great.
I look my age. Steve Berger has already jumped in minutes ago, cheering you on from Atlanta, where it is raining. We're supposed to get more rain here in Oregon. Gary, Jordan, and William, you are probably all in different regions of the US, but I don't know, maybe two of you are rather close by. Jordan, where are you hailing from?
I'm in an area outside of Baltimore City called Catonsville in Baltimore County, Maryland.
Nice. We almost moved to Maryland. That's another story. How about you, William?
I'm in East Tennessee. We live on 8 acres looking right at the Smoky Mountains, not far from Knoxville, Maryville. Yeah, it's gorgeous. Yeah, if we were on Zoom, you'd have my snow scene in the background, but I didn't have that. I didn't have that picture with this. You just have
No.
my boring
I'm
office here.
I'm so glad we can be. It looks like you're all at home at this moment. And I like the casual. Gary, how about you? Where are you not tuning in? Where are you?
Hi, Christine. I'm in Milford, Michigan, which is a small little suburb northwest of Detroit. My wife and I moved here 4 years ago in what we called our empty nest house. And we're able to have our two children and two kids, I shouldn't call them, two kids who have now grown and flown. And I live vicariously through them as they are successfully adulting. And I enjoy doing that.
I don't
Amongst other
believe you.
things.
I don't believe you. I don't think you're living vicariously, although you're enjoying vicariously, but I know you're doing a lot in living. So, should I congratulate you on the Lions' victory at this point?
You know, you have a lot to congratulate me on, actually. Thank you very much for opening that door. Yes, the Lions, us in Michigan are enjoying our football seasons, and I pluralize those because we have the Detroit Lions to root for. Go Lions on Sunday. And I'm a graduate of the University of Michigan. I actually graduated from the University of Michigan Dearborn. And my son went to University of Michigan Ann Arbor. So we're huge Michigan fans. And to see them win the national championship this year, the way they did as a team was absolutely outstanding. It was a great season, and we're still reveling in that glory, and we will for another year.
Yeah, that's right. You get to do that. You have something else that is very exciting. So cue the promo.
I do, and I appreciate that lead in. And do you mind if I introduce myself? Because I think it might be interesting to know who I am.
We want to know your path to this point. You betcha.
And I will. And Christine, I want to thank you very much for having me on this morning. There's three things about me that I think it might be relevant for the audience. First of all, I am a boomer. I was born right in the middle of that giant wave that we do like to call the silver tsunami. And that may be a topic we may want to carry forward a little bit because it has some good and bad elements to it. And I tend to focus on the good elements of the silver tsunami. The second thing that you may want to know about me is I'm semi-retired. I still consult with a digital media company. Shout out to my friends at SS Digital Media in Troy, Michigan. We do support a number of senior living communities in their digital journey. And that's another topic. Senior living may be brought to us. And the third thing, in my spare time, and this is where you were taking me, and I appreciate it, I spend a lot of my time reading and researching everything about aging. And then I love to share that with others. So for the past 6 months, I've been blogging 2 times a month. You can see that on my website. And drum roll, please. My first book was just published literally this week, if you can see that. The title of the book is Are We Old Yet? And it just went live, and I appreciate that promo at the bottom. It's on Amazon, both the paperback and the Kindle version. And so I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited about the book, and I'll start marketing on February 1st, make the announcement, although maybe this is my coming out party here. So to sort of summarize who I am and what I do, I consider myself a passionate advocate for making the most of our aging journey. And I enjoy spreading that message. And that's why I wrote the book. That's one of the many reasons why I wrote the book. So thank you for having me. And thank you for that little book promo. Again, it is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and a number of other online bookstores. And I think it's a great read. It's an interesting and fun read by the way, I have to show this to you. Caution, must be over 50 years old to read this book. So anybody who is over the age of 49 is able to read my book. There's an age I'm just kidding about the age requirement. But
oh my goodness. I got to go.
Yes, these last 2 weeks between football and publishing my book have been a very, very fun time in my life here in Michigan.
So I'm wondering if you can hear me, Gary, if you're also a Baltimore Ravens fan because of the Harbaugh brothers. And we've got Jordan from near the Baltimore area. And we've
I'm
got
definitely a Baltimore Ravens fan.
we have got two Harbaugh brothers just right here on this show.
Yes. I would love to see my ideal Super Bowl would be the Detroit Lions versus the Baltimore. And I think you know who I want to win that game, but I'd love to see the Harbaugh brother in the Super Bowl. Yeah. So Jordan, I hope for you and I hope for us that we're versing each other and we'll place some sort of bet on the game.
Well,
I'm hoping we get through this game this weekend. This is I mean, not to talk too much football, but this is a
Yes.
really hard matchup. And I'm really excited because Taylor Swift is coming to Baltimore. Like, that's the one thing that you get about a Ravens game with the Chiefs is Taylor Swift is coming to Baltimore.
So are you rooting for Taylor Swift or are you rooting for Baltimore? Those are two different things.
I said to my friend, this is the one time that I actually want Taylor Swift to leave Baltimore crying. Other than, I never want to see Taylor Swift cry, but if there's one time, it'd be this weekend.
This is it.
The other thing about this is you've got this, speaking of aging, this wonderful father, the Harbaugh father, who trained both his sons and who's there watching the games. I mean, the pride of that father watching those two Harbaugh boys, it's pretty amazing.
Yes,
well, I'm a Steelers fan and I'm crying all year. I mean, it's been a bad year. And so that's enough about football, whatever.
I love it.
But I couldn't pass up, Detroit, Michigan and the Baltimore Ravens, two Harbaugh brothers. That's pretty cool.
Great
I'm
point,
sorry
man.
I'm taking your time, Gary.
No, this is a great moment for me to thank my hubby / producer who absolutely enjoys everything about football, including being on the coaching panel. Like, there were 7 dads who were helping their 2nd and 3rd grade boys to learn Pop Warner football, all the way up through, always making the comment just before the announcers on TV make the exact same comment, just so since he has to sit in the background, he may as well enjoy this part of the conversation too. Thank you, D. Scott Smith, motivational listener on LinkedIn, etc. Oh, he's on everything. But okay, so Gary, book, Jordan, do you do art? Are you an artist?
I actually am an artist, and I'm a performing artist. I'm a dancer, but as I've done this journey of understanding art and utilizing art, I've come to realize everyone is an artist. There's the art of self-expression and the art of your passion. We work with someone close to us that we love that is an artistic activist. And her name is Heidi Wagner. She founded this awesome organization called the Passions Project. Just check it out if you can. The Passions Project. And she photographs older adults or really just people now, since she's worked in some intergenerational spaces, performing their passion. And I've never thought about, before I did this work, didn't think about like my passion as being an art, but I realize now, like, my self-expression, my putting myself and who I am out into the world is art in itself. And so, yes, I'm an artist. My favorite art is me. I also am an equestrian, and I find that training horses and working with horses is an amazing art in itself. Like, you're just making a beautiful creature do something that you want it to do, and working with it and empowering it to do amazing things. So yeah, I am a performing artist. I'm a singer and a dancer, but also I am an equestrian and a horse trainer.
Oh, I fear horses and I respect them. We watched an entire horse happening display in an arena with all the jumps and the pageantry. It was overwhelming. I would go back again and again. And dancing, another thing that I get to admire, that's going to be my superpower for you, Jordan, is admiring someone who can, again, have control over something and make yourself do something that others can't. And we stand back and applaud that. William, I know you have something. In fact, I'm thinking that's the book that I can see next to you, because you and I are going to meet each other face to face in April at the Texas Library Association conference. I may have said that correctly, but everybody talk to Liz Lawless if you want to know about that. Liz Lawless, she does Westerns. She is an advocate and activist for Black cowboys historically and today. Everything from rodeo to everything equestrian. Oh, Jordan, you've got to meet Liz. She will tell you so much about horses and her love and all these people that she has taken their stories and brought them onto screen and into books. She's amazing. And that's part of the reason why William knows her. But William, help us to know you better.
Sure. It's great to be on with Gary and Jordan and with you, Christine. This is fun. And it's an important subject. I mean, it's something I've been talking about for a long time. So I'm a mix of clergy and academic. I've been a pastor of large churches in Dallas and Birmingham, but also a president of Pittsburgh Theological Seminary in Pittsburgh. In fact, I did my PhD at Pitt, and that's where I became the Steelers fan as the Terry Bradshaw, Franco Harris, Mean Joe Green years, and always a Steelers fan, whatever. Anyway, and I've just enjoyed writing my whole life. I published 8 nonfiction books as an academic. I was a professor, taught at University of Pittsburgh, taught at Union Seminary in Virginia. And so I've got 8 nonfiction books that tend to be in a little more of the ecclesiastical, theological field. But 30 years ago, Alex Haley, the author of Roots, in his later years, in fact, just before he died, was about to speak where I was serving in Dallas. And he said, "Have you written anything?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, let me see one of your books." And so I pulled one off the shelf, which was a set of lectures that I had given at Princeton. And he sat there thumbing. This is the author of Roots, thumbing my book and reading. And he closes it and he says, "Bill, you need to write a novel." And I said, "Alex, what makes you say that?" And he said 2 things. 1, you know how to write, you write really well. And 2, you know how to tell a story. And that's all a novel is. And I said, "What kind of novel would I write?" And he said, "What do you like?" And I said, "Oh, Tom Clancy, all the Jason Bourne, Robert Ludlum, international espionage." He said, "Write one like that." I said, I don't know anything about any of that. And he said, "Well, you're a Greek scholar. You know that genre. Put those 2 together." And that's what I created. And 30 years later, now talk about not ever giving up, 12 revisions later, right? I mean, Charles Frazier rewrote Cold Mountain 20 times, so who's counting? And a really good story is not written, it's rewritten. And as Stephen King says in his book on writing, to write is human, to edit is divine. So you have to tighten. The first version of this was 740 pages. Now it's 384. And it's an international espionage story about a former CIA assassin who becomes a minister, then gets pulled back to his old world of espionage and murder to crack the code in an ancient manuscript and foil a terrorist plot. But what's interesting about it is it's a Dan Brown meets Daniel Silva combination. And that's why it's now on sale in 42 countries around the world. It just popped up at the Harvard bookstore the other day, and I was stunned to see that. I didn't expect that. And our actor son, who has been on George Clooney's The Tender Bar, in a scene with Ben Affleck, and he is in the final season of Netflix's The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, is done the narration for Audible, and it's taking off because he's an expert in international accents, and I have 7 different countries and all that. So that's a little background on that. But I just want to mention on the business of aging is that I also lecture on the brain at medical schools and medical conferences. And I have been since, 2000. And there are all different kinds of lectures I have done. And they're flashing up on the screen there, some of them that I did about a year ago at a college here in the area. But there's sort of a philosophical, ethical perspective on the mind-body equation that contrasts a more Hellenistic Cartesian dualism that separates mind and body and has doctors looking at patients as very uninteresting appendages to very interesting diseases over against a more Hebraic holistic approach that has a physician looking at the whole person, and it really helps the healing process for the patient. The point I make in it, which was really kind of fascinating when I first started doing the research, is that in every single one of our minds, there are billions of neurons bouncing. Like right now, just think about it. In your mind, there are billions of neurons bouncing, making trillions of synaptic connections. Now, when I give this lecture in a big crowd with several thousand, I'll look at somebody on the front row and I'll say, well, maybe only millions in yours. You need coffee, because the coffee will get the neurons bouncing faster. Well, think about this. Trillions of synaptic connections in your brain, which means there are more synaptic connections going on in your brain than there are stars in the Milky Way. Just think about that. What does that mean? That means you can do way more than you think you can. And especially as you age, this whole idea that, oh, I just can't think anymore, I can't do anymore, whatever. No, you can do way more than you think you can. Look at all the things that Gary and Jordan are doing, all the things that you are doing, Christine. The brain is just amazing in its ability to handle more. And so you work it. And one of the ways, I'm a Greek scholar and I teach Greek, and I will take lay people and teach them. I don't have to teach university or seminary students. And I will advertise it this way. Look, do you want to delay dementia and Alzheimer's? Take Greek. And they sign up like crazy for it, because working with foreign languages will help you keep the neurons bouncing and will delay dementia and Alzheimer's. So anyway, those are just a couple of things I wanted to mention.
Wow.
Well, I have a
wow.
question.
Yes.
Why do grandparents and grandchildren get along?
Well, Alex Haley told me because they have a common enemy, which is the parents.
Wow.
That's what Alex Haley. He actually
come on, we can get away with something. They're not looking.
Yeah, he actually said to me, they have a common enemy, which is the parents. One of the things I like to say about a new baby is that it turns the father into a man and the grandfather into a boy. Oh, my little, and you just lose all. It brings the grandparents back to their childlikeness that they left when they lived all those years of whatever we call middle age. By the way, there's a new definition of middle age. Did you know that? So I've spoken at the Chautauqua Institution up in Western New York, where they bring in all these different, David McCullough, of course, he's deceased now, but all these different people they bring in. And the people who go to Chautauqua Institution are more chronologically mature. Everyone admits that, but they're incredibly bright and they read all the time and they're just so interesting. So when I'm there lecturing and there'll be 5,000 in the auditorium, and I look around and then I realize, wait a minute, you can't get the senior citizen discount at Chautauqua until you're 90. So the new middle age is 60 to 90. That's what I think. So I talked to somebody who's my age and I said, well, you're just halfway through the new middle age. You should just enjoy it,
Jordan, what's your answer to your question?
Also, I asked that question because I of course while everyone's talking, I'm Googling everyone because my reading list is growing. I have to read Gary's book now, even though today is my birthday and I just turned 27.
Yes.
So
Woo,
I'm a little too young. I'm very much too young to read your book, but I'm gonna read it anyway because I can.
You're
Rebel.
interested in the topic, so I will give you special dispensation to be able to read the book.
Thank you. And of course, I looked up Williams, all of his stuff, and I mean your sermons and everything. I'm like, okay. And I saw a brain technique, and one of the second things you talk about is why grandparents and grandchildren get along. So I don't have an answer because I have not thought about that in depth, but I do love that, just that idea of, and this is something that I've talked about with a lot of people who do work in dementia as well as people who do anti-ageism work, and there's an intersection here of play and how play gives us this freedom to let go of societal expectations of who we present ourselves to be,
Yes.
these expectations of who we need to be by our self-expression, and it gives us the chance to just be whoever, make believe, to this fluidity of identity. And so play is something that's wonderful, and it's true, like you don't really get that chance to play. You can't play as a parent because there's so much responsibility. And I mean, I wish I could play as a parent, and there are times when I'm like, am I being too rigid? Like I'm worried about eating vegetables and doing homework, but and then I see my parents, and I'm like, you have the freedom to play. Like here you are playing and not worrying about the responsibilities of parenting, but just having fun and playing. So there is that wonderful freedom that I think that grandparents and children both have, the freedom to play.
Love it. I agree with that totally. And it is a point. Go ahead, Gary. You're going to say something.
I was going to add to the comments, which I love, by the way, about grandparenting. And in my research for the book, I wrote a chapter on Maslow and the hierarchy and how it relates to us as we age. And coincidentally, Maslow developed that hierarchy under a number of different circumstances. One was when he was working at a zoo and studying baboons. And the other one that was captured in a documentary was while he was playing with his grandchildren. While he was playing with his grandchildren, he saw some of the elements of the upper level of the hierarchy in the children themselves and how they were so free in the play that you just mentioned, Jordan. And so both of your conversations about that made me think of the chapter on Maslow and the hierarchy and how we, as we age, can and should embrace that in all of the things that both of you said with regard to it. So I love it. Love the conversation.
There's something that I've been toying around with recently, and it's this idea of age blindness. Like we all know about color blindness and like this idea that you're just whitewashing things and color doesn't matter. And there has been a new phenomenon of, and it's not that new, but age blindness, where people are like, age doesn't matter. And there is, age is just a number. And I am going to say this, and I haven't said this out loud yet anywhere else, but age is not just a number. Like age is actually very important. And in that it's not just a number, it's something that you bring to the table when all of these life experiences that you've had, you're bringing to whatever you're bringing. So, I mean, I love that you're talking about this hierarchy of needs and how I imagine this on a wave of like you're at this child and you've reached, I think it's self-actualization. This is, mind you, college psych. I'm trying to remember. And then you start to worry about shelter and food, and then you go back up once you've built some savings, and like that is all aging, and it's all important. And we sometimes want to whitewash it in order to not make people sometimes feel more comfortable and so. But I just turned 27. 27 is like, I'm right here right now, and I'm on my downward slant, and I cannot wait till the uptick.
You're just a child at 27. Good Lord, that's amazing. Yeah,
Gary Maslow actually mentioned that to achieve self-actualization actually is better when you're older because of the wisdom and experiences that you have, and it's easier to then achieve that based on that. If I may, I also want to mention something you said, Jordan, about the age, the not seen aging, like the whitewashing of aging and so on and so forth. And I'm gonna match that with the silver tsunami and say that two of the very positive things that have come out of that from an aging standpoint is, number one, aging is becoming cool. It used to be a stigma attached to it. It was really, really bad. But now, because so many of our celebrities and entertainers are becoming old, I mean, come on. And they are making it cool. And I love seeing it. It's almost changing the culture. And the other thing is the science and medicine of aging in the last 30 years has grown immensely. We've now identified the 14 hallmarks of aging, the reason we age. And now that we know, and now that we understand why we age, these very smart doctors and scientists can now figure out, if we want, how we can slow that down. And by the way, culturally, I'm all about, I'm 68 and I am 68. By the way, I'll turn 69 this Sunday. But
happy early birthday.
Thank you. I'm not 59, I'm 69. I'm proud of that. But I do want to be comfortable with my age, both mentally and physically. So now that we know why we age biologically, the doctors and scientists and all these smart people are figuring out how we can age better, how we can age well. And I'm so encouraged by that, because I do think, in spite of my, Jordan, you may live to be well over 100, given the science that they're doing. I'm not going to put William in my category, but maybe we're same category versus you. But there are still some scientific things that are coming out right now. There's some things that we are learning that will help us in our aging journey. And I'm very optimistic and very encouraged by all of that. So,
yeah, I'll agree completely with what you're saying. And by the way, I'll be 76 this year. So I'm getting up there. And as long as I am eating right, eating correctly, eating well, but eating correctly, exercising my body, exercising my mind. And I want to add, whatever your faith is, a faith component, and it's not just about your relationship with an almighty. It's about being with other people. And the studies show that as we age, if we just stay alone, that's why people who move into retirement communities are much healthier usually, because they're being around other people. And as long as I'm doing all those things, then, well, who knows, I may catch something or, whatever. We finally went through our first round of COVID right after Christmas and we had dodged it with all the boosters and vaccines, but it finally caught us. Fortunately, it was like a mild cold, but you don't know what's going to hit you. And so you try to bet against the odds, by doing things. Don't do things that are going to get you in trouble, smoking and all the different things that'll get you in trouble. I do want to mention also a book that I had completely forgot about until the other day. It's called Graying Gracefully, that my father edited and got a bunch of scholars to help with chapters, and I helped him write it. And I helped him organize it. But what's so funny is he's William J. Carl Jr. I'm William J. Carl III. And with my novel, I just dropped both the third and the junior, the third, because my grandpa's dead and my dad died 6 years ago. But because we have the same name, now when people look at my book, Assassin's Manuscript, online, and then they look for other books, this pops up as one I wrote, which I didn't do, of course. But this is a really good book about people relating to the aging issues, and it brings some biblical and theological ideas. It's called Graying Gracefully. You might want to check it, but I didn't write it. My dad wrote it, and it's kind of fun having father-son stuff, like our actor son, doing the audible narration, and it just brings the story to life. And what's really fun about it is it's the first father-son author narrator collaboration in the country. Nobody think of another parent child author narrator. And so that's kind of fun, as we age, to be connected to our children in a very special professional way. I want to mention one more thing about play, Jordan, that I really liked what you were saying there. And it relates to pets and how people who have pets and love them, whether dogs or cats or whatever they are, it turns them into more playful people. I don't know if you noticed that about people who have pets. Both of our boys have rescue dogs, and they're wonderful. One's this huge Great Pyrenees. Our granddaughter can practically ride. It's almost like a horse. But the other one, David, the actor, is a little puppy dog called Bongo, which is a beautiful dog. But David, speaking of art, paints people's pets. And if you look at David Carl online paintings, people will send pictures of their pets, and then he'll paint them, and they're stunning. Just look up David Carl, C-A-R-L, online paintings, and you'll see other things about his acting and everything. But he learned how to do that during the pandemic, Jordan. Imagine that. He taught himself how to paint. And
wow,
the paintings, what he does with the eyes of the cats and the dogs, it's incredible. And so
his work is amazing.
Yeah,
I love it. My guests Google.
DavidCarlOnline.com. Like, his work is really amazing.
Yeah, he
great.
just taught himself how to paint. I mean, he's an actor, and an improv expert and this and that. In movies, he was on Blue Bloods and all that. But he didn't get any of that from my wife and me, because we can barely draw a stick figure, and so anyway. But the playfulness that comes for people with their pets, particularly as they age, I have noticed that if you take a person to go visit people in a retirement home and they bring their pet, it just livens everybody up, and everyone wants to pet, and it just makes their day in that retirement community. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
We have 7 pets, and their research that has come out recently has shown that having pets does help you live longer. And talking about living long, so the 7 pets we have is 2 dogs and a cat. We have a bearded dragon, and we have 3 horses. And so
Wow.
we don't. Most of those pets live here, except for the 3. They don't live in our house. But talking about living longer, if you've studied blue zones at all, one of the biggest pillars of blue zones is having that community. And a lot of, I think one of those blue zones in America is the Seventh-day Adventists, and it's that faith in that community that makes living that creates that longevity in that community.
Jordan,
Yes.
help me. What are blue zones?
Yeah, I just realized, like, we have an audience of people watching.
Yeah.
I just remembered.
No,
It's
we're
not the
just here
4 of us just
talking. Yeah,
talking.
that nobody's listening. Not even
So
Kimber.
blue zones
Kimber Westmore.
are-
She's not listening. Hi, Kimber.
So blue zones are communities and areas geographically that have a larger number of centenarians than other areas. So I think there have been, and I've done very little studying of blue zones, but I have a degree in aging studies, and so aging is just all that I anything aging I try to consume. So that's blue zones, just larger numbers of centenarians. And if you want to learn more about blue zones, there was just a documentary released within the last 5 months, a docuseries on Netflix around blue zones. But it's all around your diet, what you eat, your community, who you surround yourself with, your purpose in life. There's a Japanese blue zone, and one of the biggest things that they have is this thing called an ikigai, which is all around
Ikigai.
your purpose.
Yeah.
That
Well,
I've heard
There's
of
an
before.
ikigai guy that
Yeah.
if you
Yes.
follow on LinkedIn, yes.
if I
I love
if
it.
I could jump in, I actually have a chapter in the book about the blue zones, why we should live in the blue zones. And Jordan, you've got it absolutely right. And there are 5 of them. They're actually now thinking about adding Singapore as a 6th blue zone for what some of the lifestyles that they've adopted. And I think we may have lost Jordan. So I'm going to continue talking about the blue
Maybe
zones
just for a
until we get Jordan back.
Yay.
But the blue zones in the documentary actually talked about the power of 9. There are 9 things that are common between these blue zones that are reasons for people living to be over 100. And Jordan did a great job. Purpose in life and ikigai. I love the way they explain it. It's the reason to wake up. It's the reason to wake up. And certainly diet and sleep and being social and actually going back to something William said, spirituality. And again, they're not proposing any religion over the other.
Right.
But spirituality is one of those common factors in the blue zones that allow people to live longer. And one of my wife's favorites, if I can give her a shout out, is drinking wine after 5. In Sardinia, there's 5 blue zones. Sardinia, Italy is one of them. And they have a specific kind of wine that's high in flavonoids. And I'm going to mispronounce the wine, but if you're a red wine drinker, and if you want to drink healthy, you should drink a wine from Sardinia that's from the Cannonau grape. And that is one of the most healthiest wines that you can drink. Now, I will say this. They do say drink 1 glass a night, not a lot, but drink a glass of wine a night. And so all of those things make up that power of 9 and add to the reason why there are so many people living to a long life. And by the way, may I add, this is very important, a happy life. Not just long, but also a very, very happy life. And I think that's really important connection in longevity. It's not just to live long, but to be healthy and to be happy and to live long. And I think that is really important way to approach this longevity journey that we're on.
I'm gonna start the wind up just for a moment by saying, Jordan, you are one of the people who has broken my bias because just me didn't have this passion about aging until I was in my 50s. Until then, you either loved your grandparent or they were too grouchy. My love developed in my 50s. And I actually probably out loud thought, why is this person caring so much about the health span and the, financial security and the, long list of things for aging people or people who will be aging? They're so young. That was one of my biases. So I'm starting the wrap up by saying, yay, Jordan, you are another person who breaks that bias. I recognized 52 different aspects of aging as I was hired to be a caregiver in almost 100 different homes, residences, private homes. And I got to be around their families and I got to see their interactions and I got to go with them to nutritionists. And I realized that there were 52 particular things that a person would live into their longevity, their own longevity, better if they were informed ahead of time. Hey, this is an aspect of aging, not always an issue or a challenge, but something to expect as you go on the journey. So that's my one plug for what I have been able to do. My husband encouraged me to get this stuff into writing. Then I wrote a quick article for LinkedIn as I discovered the wonderful world of social media in my 60s. And I wrote an article and he said, expand that one into just a little skinny book. And it's called not Caregiver, but Care Griever Kit. It's a practical guide because all of my people, as they were aging, all of their family members watching their loved one aging, knew that this is something that grieving well, having a healthy grieving habit is something that continues the happiness. I have happy memories, sweet sorrow, rather than, oh no, I don't even want to open the newspaper anymore because it's going to be sad, 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 or re-grieving or anniversary grieving or anticipatory. We just got the diagnosis. It doesn't look good. All of that, even your own mortality, fearing continued living. It's the first time that it happens to people. They fear continued living. That's not the way a 27-year-old healthfully feels. A 57-year-old may be going, I don't like this about aging, but fearing continued living. Oh my goodness, William, you're glad you have continued to live. I think it's exciting. I love that statement that a great book isn't written, it is rewritten. That's really helpful for a person like me who said, let's just get this published and then I can do the next edition, or I can do a companion book that is actually better for certain kinds of readers. You know, you're a information reader, I want to just know what should I do reader, etc. So I have plugged my thing, agingbetternetwork.com. You can always see these replays at agingbetternetwork.com/live. William, let's go to you. And then after you, Gary. And we'll finish up with Jordan.
Well, it's really fun to be on and get to know Gary and Jordan and get to know you again, Christine. This is really fun. I think the main thing we want to say is we want to live a peaceful, happy life with the sense of harmony and oneness, not just with your whatever the spiritual part of you, but your whole being. That includes your body, it includes every part of who you are. And if you're a little too focused in on yourself, you're not going to get there. So you need to be thinking about others. Every time you get a little down, you just think, who else can I think about and reach out to? Who can I smile to today when I walk by somebody? It's amazing how thinking about others will lift you up. That's my final comment.
Oh, thank you. And Gary, and William, do you want people to get a hold of you or find you anywhere?
They can on my website, which he just popped up, LeConte Publishing. I created a publishing company about the time I published the book, and it's not a traditional publishing company. It's to help people who are trying to write or trying to do creative things. Even David Carl is one of the mentors. I have mentors from all over the country that help people. And David, our actor son, who's also a painter, is an artist who's on LeConte Publishing. Check it out. It's kind of fun. That's a way.
Great. For people in replay that are listening only, LeConte is LeConte. LeConte Publishing. Thanks. Thank you, William. I am so grateful that you just decided, sure, I'll be adventurous. So your AQ, your adventurous quotient, is really high. You've been tested and that's your score. You're really high. Gary, I'm sure you want someone to get a hold of you, get a hold of your book. And is there a link that you really want them to see? Anything like that, go right ahead.
There is, and then thank you for thanks for Scott for popping that up. GaryCole.com, and notice my first name is spelt with 2 R's. I always told people, because it's an unusual spelling, I always told people my mother stuttered, which is not a true statement, but it's actually historical, and I'll leave you there.
But it keeps in the mind.
I would like to thank everybody, Jordan, William, and you, Christine. This has been a wonderful conversation. I've loved it. And I want to close with mentioning someone else's book for a second. I'm glad we ended up talking about being happy, because I think that this age is really one of the ages that we should be at our happiest. And by the way, a book called The Happiness Curve, written by Jonathan Rauch, actually confirms that, scientifically confirms that this is one of the happiest terms in our life. He really talks about a U shape of happiness. We start off being happy out in our teenage years, and then the crap sort of hits the fan when we hit 21, and we have to be adulting and all that kind of stuff. And we sort of stay down in the lower part during the Middle Ages. But when we get to our 60s, it's sort of our happiness rises. And I think that this aging experience that we're in, and this aging journey that you're in, can be we really can use what we learn in our wisdom to become happy. And I'm very happy. And I saw William shaking his head. And Jordan, you have many years yet ahead of you to discover just how happy we are. So I applaud you for being here, and thank you very much. And someday you'll be as happy as we are.
Happy birthday, Jordan. Oh, yay. And I'm so glad we got to hear about all your pets and everything you're involved in. And one of these guys already predicted that you're going to live well into your hundreds. So I figure this is the beginning. This is the beginning of your century. So, and I'm not joking. So, you know what? Just tell people about me when you get to that point. Thanks.
Well, the commercials say it's never too early to start saving for retirement, and it's never too early to start cashing in on your age positivity and to start changing your perceptions around aging and thinking more positive about aging. And maybe you might be the one to change your you into, a nice progression. You can find out more about Art Against Ageism at artagainstageism.org. You can follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, and on LinkedIn. We are always looking for new communities to bring in new installations. And that is it about us. You can also email me at jordan@artagainstageism.org.
Art
Hey,
Against
I
Ageism.
want to mention one more thing.
Yes.
I have a really short poem about retirement called The Last Chapter that I wrote a couple of years ago. You want to hear it real quick? We have time.
This is our final song. So this is the Carol Burnett. I'm so glad we had this time together. Your poem. Go.
Running, biking, tennis, hiking, weekly mowing, because he keeps growing, up and moving here and there, limiting times we sit. Getting good sleep, then getting up is making us healthy and fit. Bluebird sighting and lots of writing makes every single day exciting. Seeing the mountains lifts your spirit. Listen for the wind. Can you hear it? Are we bored? Not a chance. Thank you, Lord, for this last dance. Rekindling love in our golden years, remembering both laughter and tears at the same time in this little rhyme. We know it's not about us. The world is a mess filled with suffering and stress, unconcerned about our happiness. Limiting news blowers BP for sure, while ignoring negatives is a helpful cure. Instead of hunkering down in our little world, we look with hope as God's plan is unfurled. Never forgetting those in need, we pray for the day when all will be freed. We say goodbye to dear old friends whose faces we'll never forget. We say see you later as we make new friends whom we're really glad we've met. Someday heaven will welcome us when this chapter comes to an end. But for now, let's watch for positive things just around the bend. That's the last chapter.
And you sewed up everything so well. Remember, you can live 7 happier years longer if you think and talk and live positively aging. Right, Jordan?
That's right.
Bye, Gary. Bye, William. Bye, Jordan.
Bye,
I'm
all.
sad. We have
Thank
to
you.
leave. Thank you, husband. Thank for producing all this. Thank you to Steve Berger and Kim Westmore. They are in my replays as previous guests as well. Bye, guys.